in the Grandmasters?
Depends how the meta develops. If we keep seeing only 3 or 4 dominant classes, it'll be very similar like this, I'm expecting. But if we branch out to a lot more different archetypes, or at least different archetypes even within classes, we might see more generalized secondary and tertiary lists.
Okay, well, let's have a look as we go into game number 3. blitzchung versus SamuelTsao. 1-1. Last game to decide it. This is best of 3 specialist format we're running here at the Hearthstone Grandmasters, and it's all to play for. As this, you know, they're in an 8-week-long league, and you really want to gather as many wins and points as possible, because if you get off to, say, a 0-2 start in the first week, well, that's a lot of ground to make up already just to catch up. Never mind actually get ahead and get into that top cut.
blitzchung, I believe, if we saw that correctly, tossed back a raiding party?
I was looking at you, so I don't know.
Okay.
I'll take your word for it, and if so, I'm kind of surprised. I feel like it's one of the best cards in the deck.
Yeah, especially, I mean, if you were on the play, maybe there's a, a reasoning like, oh, this might be too difficult to activate, maybe I'll try to find something else, but I'm surprised to see him, well, I mean, oh, he knew he was going to draw it on one, that's my bad.
I think, though, for me, the query really is, if you throw Raiding Party, you generally don't have it in time, right? Just I don't know the numbers specifically, but, you know, generally, if you throw it, you don't want it, right? I feel if your opponent in the mirror has Raiding Party and you don't, you just lose. Like, I feel like the card generation and the power of those potential swings with the pick and then the Corsairs, like we saw, or even deckhands, is like, that's so much tempo that I feel like if you don't have it activated, you will just lose in the mirror. And so, a little bit surprised, but it is a bit of a moot point now because blitzchung has drawn it anyway, nice and early, ready to go.
With the Waggle Pick in hand and Raiding Party, SamuelTsao deciding to swing on turn 2, either going to re-dagger or perhaps set up for a Waggle Pick 2 turns later.
Again, blitzchung has dagger available to go into that Hench Clan Thug if he really wants. Or just coin Evil Miscreant, and blitzchung taking it slow.
He is taking it slow. He's not coining out Miscreant or Raiding Party. He has both available to him, but he values playing out this Hench Clan Thug more. Believes that the board presence is going to be more important than the 1/5 from the Miscreant. With the deckhand or the Corsair in hand, he could actually activate without even using the coin, the Miscreant or the Raiding Party on turn 4. But this definitely looks like a bit of a slower game plan from blitzchung.
For me, I think as well, it's because of his hand, right? He already has a Waggle Pick.
Right.
He already has 2 Pirates, so he's kind of got a pre-built Raiding Party. And also, it gives him a little bit more flexibility and for him to become the aggressor, because he can actually play Hench Clan Thug attack, potentially, depending on what SamuelTsao does this turn. Right. And then the turn after, he could equip pick, and then he has answers to his opponent's pick as well with that one durability weapon removal of the Bloodsail Corsair. So, although it seems a little bit weird and slow, I actually quite like this for blitzchung. Okay.
SamuelTsao opting to play the SI7 agent here over the Dread Corsair. The Dread Corsair becomes much cheaper later with the Waggle Pick. It looks like he's going for that line.
I was going to say there was even a chance, like this lines up well because of the deckhand, of course, but there was even a chance he could have just coined the Waggle Pick to deal with a minion if played that turn from Blood Trail, and then gone sort of a backwards way with the 1-drops into the Miscreant afterwards.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Honestly, this Rogue is one of the classes I've played the least since the expansion started, so I'm also trying to...
Good mage player, aren't you?
Yeah.
Mage guy.
Warrior, but don't tell TJ and Frodan.
There's a reason we sat a certain amount apart if you tell me you're a warrior player.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I think keeping your options open is pretty valuable in this matchup, especially because there are turns that can just go out of control so quickly. Yeah, being flexible
makes a lot of sense, and we can see that even the plays we were talking about, the Hench Clan Thug coming out, it didn't even end up being what blitzchung went for. He just saw that the SI7 agent was developed, and he ended up just clearing that instead of developing his own board. Well, he also developed his own board with the Miscreant, but instead of
however much development, it's a different kind of development, isn't it, having a Miscreant on board versus, say, Hench Clan. It's going to be a prep Raiding Party, and blitzchung again is doing the thing we probably all do at this point, and hope there's no other minions and Van Cleet.
Using the Waggle Pick he drew from the Raiding Party to conceal the fact that he has another Waggle Pick in hand. Alright, first test. blitzchung, do you have some weapon removal here? blitzchung does run 2. 1 Bloodsail Corsair, 1 Acidic Swamp Ooze.
Does have one available and can follow up with the Hench Clan Thug. The only problem is, again, it's just not... oh, sorry, the Hench Clan Thug's fantastic. For some reason, I was thinking he needed to Deadly Poison the minion. No. But of course not! The Waggle Pick Shadow Steps. So this is, again, such a sick turn.
Yeah. And this is kind of the power of the Bloodsail Corsair. Imagine if there was no weapon removal here. The development by SamuelTsao was just extremely powerful, but teching in these Bloodsteel Corsairs and the consistency of having them drawn with a raiding party just makes the mirror, you know, a bit more swingy.
I feel like the Rogue Mirror is the closest to, you know, that game that I would never play, but the game where like you slap someone and then you let them slap you until someone like quits out.
Right.
That's literally Rogue Mirrors, isn't it? Like look, every single time. Well, now I have board and the weapon equipped, and then next turn blitzchung will have board and the weapon. You know, it just keeps going back and forth until someone finally just drops down.
The difference here, however, in the Rogue Mirror is that eventually the Rogue starts slapping faces instead, trying to end out the game. Backstab draw. Blitzchung is able to activate the raiding party.
Even for now, just a cheeky dagger mastery hero power just to peel off this Corsair.
Yep.
But now Greenskin. I feel like this is the point where SamuelTsao says, "Let's go." Greenskin, 5 to face. Let's see what he can do. He's seen one instance of the weapon removal from blitzchung. Just a reminder, as you said earlier, there is the Swamp Ooze left, and there's only this Bloodsteel Corsair's weapon removal, or I say durability removal, should I say, for SamuelTsao.
So many options.
Not much else you can do this turn either. There's no really point in holding back the Greenskin. You just take the turn to develop. You don't necessarily want to be using Bloodsteel Corsair. You saw your opponent just draw a Waggle Pick, so you can save it for that.
And also, like, Bloodsteel Corsair just to proc an SI is like...
Yeah, I mean, you can do that later. You have prep in hand, too. It'll get better.
Yeah, SamuelTsao pretty much just needs to sit there and say, this is a strong turn. I should draw a good card next turn to kind of bring the rest of his hand together. Yep. Any spell, any other decent-sized minion or activation card, like,
even
burst, would be good.
Even burst would be bad. Like,
sure.
There's 10 damage on board.
That's what I mean. The odds on him drawing a card that is good next turn for him is very high, so he may as well take the aggressive approach.
Yeah, I like it. Blitzchung playing the Waggle Pick from his opening hand, as opposed to the one he drew from the raiding party. I think this might be a bit of a misstep. Won't matter too much. SamuelTsao doesn't have 2 weapon removals, but he will know that there's another Waggle Pick in hand if Blitzchung plays this one, and he can decide whether or not he wants to use the Bloodsteel Corsair on this one or save it for the next Waggle Pick. In any case, these 2 Dread Corsairs coming down will again swing the board back in Blitzchung's favor, as he'll likely drop to 12 health, tanking the Greenskin. Otherwise, the Greenskin can take some favorable trades. Clean up.
Unless he wants to counter race, double deadly poison, go for
He could.
Oh, nice. Okay. I like this actually.
Using a Dread Corsair to save some health, recognizes that 17 actually isn't that high.
Yeah.
A couple of Visses.
And most importantly as well is he still retains a taunt minion on board. It's not like he used his only minion. He still has the board. Yep. There's nothing on SamuelTsao's end. And if this weapon goes into the Corsair, then that's kind of a win.
And that's why he chooses to evolve the Goblin Lackey as opposed to the Dread Corsair.
Yep.
The Dread Corsair costs 4 mana. Evolving to a 5 mana minion would make it a lot bigger, but valuing the taunt and his life over the bigger minion.
So now SamuelTsao is a bit of a weird choice, where he can't play all 3 of his minions in hand, but he probably wants to lean very heavily towards the Corsair just to see, because if Blitzchung's Corsair gets bounced, then he gets to push so much extra damage.
Yeah, he gets to push the Waggle Pick face.
But if it doesn't, you kind of wish you just played like Life Drinker SI. So it's kind of a rough decision, right?
This actually comes into account here. The fact that Blitzchung played the Waggle Pick that was in his hand previously and that was not drawn from the raiding party lets SamuelTsao kind of map out the next couple of turns a bit better. He knows that there's another Waggle Pick in hand, so he's thinking like, I could play the Bloodsteel Corsair here, but I know he has another weapon. So is it better to just clean off the Dread Corsair and say, all right, I need to use this Bloodsteel Corsair on the second Waggle Pick?
Yeah, because it's going to come down anyway, right? That's if he bounces the Corsair, he pushes more damage. But now he's going to actually just go both. Okay. So he didn't want the... Oh, so here we go. He didn't want the Corsair being bounced because he knows there's another pick. So this is actually, the roundabout way, really...
Deal with it now as opposed to later.
Yeah, a good deciphering of the information he had available to him, actually. Because if it comes down later, well, he doesn't have the weapon to kill it. So
yeah, if the Dread Corsair's not there and the weapon comes down, you're like, it's fine, I can still hit you in the head.
Yeah.
Bubble.
Upgrade to a 3-drop, and is that Luna?
Behold the tools of creation. We're not going to see it happen this turn, but maybe next turn.
I mean, it's a big enough threat in itself, and Blitzchung, now that he's seen the single weapon removal that SamuelTsao has chosen to run, Let's go 16 damage from the weapon.
Raven, what if blitzchung on
Knew all
purpose?
along.
Yes. What if he fed SamuelTsao the information so that he could then equip this waggle pick and just jam on both deadly poisons?
I mean, one, that would be good. Two, I think that happens anyway, right?
Yeah, probably.
But I guess there's a difference in being confident and being sure.
Yep.
Right? You know, because blitzchung is 100% sure there is no weapon remover left. This weapon cannot be destroyed unless he chooses it to be. So yeah, I mean, it's a fair point, right? Because he could have done this on the first weapon, but if it's there, he blows 4 damage with the deadly poisons. Because that's the difference, right? It's a 4 damage difference net after you destroy the weapon. Because the weapon durability is always going to be destroyed if he has it.
Yeah.
But the deadly poisons might not be. So yeah, nice play, pushing more damage.
SamuelTsao 1 off lethal here. 6 from hand, dagger 7, life drinker on board adds up to 10. He has to consider, do I need to kill this Luna? Do I need to kill the Witchy Lackey? How much damage can I play around? That weapon, I believe, is 8 attack, so there's 13 showing.
Needs to be 4.
Yeah.
SamuelTsao is going to play defensive here, clear off the minions, doesn't want anything crazy, and the problem is, if you think your opponent might not have it on 2 cards, well, that Luna's going to help them get to more than 2 cards, which means that in a roundabout way, the Luna's the biggest threat on the board.
This also does set up lethal. blitzchung has the Leroy, and he has the mana to go Leroy Shadow. Actually, Leroy itself is just lethal. What am I talking about?
Yep.
14 damage.
With an 8 attack, it's like dual-wielding waggle picks at this point, but that is going to close out this series, and blitzchung takes the Rogue Mirror away from SamuelTsao. And again, big questions as we talk about deck building. The fact that SamuelTsao only ran a single Bloodsail